Okay, so I know what the title looks like, and I just want to explain something real quick. I didn't physically mean to put her in a wheelchair. It just kind of ended up happening. Like, I didn't know, like, it would have been that painful. You know what? Honestly, I think the story explains it better if I explain the story. I mean, hell, that's the reason why you guys clicked on this video in the first place. But anyways, guys, before I do get into the story, as usual, make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Seriously, it means a lot when you guys do. And on top of that, join the Discord server down below so you guys can tell your crazy stories and at the same time get the latest updates of what's happening with the channel. Also, on top of that, did I mention I'm the hottest guy in the world? Like, literally the hottest guy ever. So make sure you guys go follow me on Instagram so you guys can see that and show your mom so I can do the devil's tango with her and maybe put her in a wheelchair. Sorry, that was a little too far. YouTube, I'm apologizing. Sorry. Please don't demonetize me. Anyways, guys, let's get straight into this crazy story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba and welcome back to another insane story. So this story takes place, funny enough, this was actually back when I was in grade 10. I know, crazy. Grade 10, I was a high schooler. I was a basic kid. And basically, I remember back in high school, there was this day where me and my friends, we ended up going to the mall and hanging out all together as a friend group. We were all hanging out as a friend group, and I remember we wanted to go get something to eat. So as we were going to go do that, out of nowhere, we ended up seeing these girls walk by and basically like kind of like walk right past us. They were pretty attractive, and I remember one of my friends was like, dude, like look at that girl right there. Damn, sugar. Like he was really excited. And I remember me, I was like, oh, I mean, they're not half bad. Yeah, like let's go say hi. So me and my friends, we ended up going down there and saying hi to them. Now, usually in every friend group, one thing I realized that girls notice is that there's usually that one attractive guy, one really ugly looking guy that does not pull anything, and there's just this random guy that's kind of just awkward in there. And basically, I remember that moment I was the more attractive guy in my friend group. I know it sounds cocky, but I'm gonna be honest, unless people like the Justin Bieber haircut still, they weren't really pulling anything. And me, you already know I'm rocking a fresh fade, and like, you know, I'm a brown guy, so you know, like I'm the hottest guy in the world. But going on, we ended up going up to the friend group and we're like, hey, like how you doing? And these girls were like, oh, like hey, like what's going on? Like what are you guys here at the mall for? And we're just like saying like, oh, you know, just like chilling and stuff. In reality, we wanted to actually buy video games. I know, cringe, but we weren't gonna tell those girls that. No way. So me and my friends ended up walking around the mall with them. We were all kind of like in a group together, like one big group. I think there was only like 7 of us. And basically from there, I remember we all like basically started like heading to like these girl stores that these girls wanted to go to. At first we went to some store like where they sell like, you know, like just normal women clothing. I think it's called like Garage or something. And then we ended up going to this store that was like purely just for like women. And I'm not gonna say what they were, but you know, it's for like their cherries and stuff. And me personally, I don't like going into those stores unless I like, have a wife to go into with. But like me knowing I wasn't dating any of these girls and they were gonna go in there and they expected us to go in there was kind of awkward. And I remember I was basically kind of like holding back from going in that store. And then I remember one of my friends came up to me saying, yo, bro, like this is the only time I get to see this go down. Like, please, can we just go in? Please, 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 bro, please, can we just go in? And I'm like, you know what? Whatever. So we ended up going in there and I lost like a part of my dignity going in there. But when we went in there, I remember these girls were like basically trying things on and stuff. And it was just one thing to another, just awkward at that point. I remember after that, I was basically really just not wanting to be there. So I kind of just started walking out of the store and leaving. And as I left the store, I remember one of the girls, they ended up kind of like running after me. And she was like, hey, like, I don't know why you're leaving, but like, I really think you're cute. And like, I was wondering if I can like maybe just get your Snapchat. So I ended up giving this girl my Snapchat. And you know, me and her from there, we started talking. And I want to say like a week went by and this girl invites me over to her house. Now that's very common in most cases with me. I don't know why, but I guess I'm just that awesome. Sorry, my cocky side's coming out. But you know, it was one of those situations again. And I basically texted her saying, oh, like, yeah, I'm down and stuff. Like, I don't see why not. And basically, I remember that same night, I was hopping on my Xbox and hopped on with the boys that I originally went to the mall with to meet these girls in the first place. And I told them, yo, bro, like, I'm gonna be going to go see this chick. Like, I don't know if it's gonna work, but like, you know, it's gonna be kind of weird. You know, like, I kind of just told them what was going on and stuff. And they were all like, dude, like, go in there and just get it done, bro. Like, damage that. Like, get it done. Boom. Ka-chow. All that good stuff and basically making me feel awesome about myself. So that's what I did. And I remember I basically ended up getting my older sister to drive me down to her place. And when we got there, I got out of her car and I basically walked to the front doorstep. And when I did, she like already answered the door. Like she knew I was already there. I think she was like peeking out the window, which is kind of creepy. But at the same time, it was her house. And when I entered in, this girl was just talking to me and stuff. And she was like, oh, like, I really like enjoy like the way you talk to me. Like she was like being really awkward, like the same way she was at the mall. And I was just weirded out. I'm gonna be real. I was weirded out. And then I remember it was so funny because me and her, we started watching a movie together. I think we were watching like something funny, like Edward Scissorhand or something. I don't know. It was a Tim Burton movie. And from there, me and her, we sat beside each other. And one thing led to another. We got closer and closer. And then this girl ends up just straight up stopping everything. She pauses the movie. She looks at me and she's like, I need to ask you something very important. And I'm like, what? Like, what's going on? She's like, well, well, I don't really have like a bedroom, but like I have a bunk bed. So like, I don't know if like you're okay with like doing it on the top bunk because like my brother sleeps in the bottom. You share a room with your brother is what I said. And I was kind of like weirded out, but like it was like a weird request, but she wanted me to do on the top bunk with her and do the Devil's Tango on a bunk bed, which is kind of weird. I mean, I've done it before and that's a story for another time, but like, you know, like I said, okay. Cause you know, I had experience with it. Okay. My first time experience wasn't that bad. Might as well do it the second time. So I remember me and this girl, we ended up just turning off the movie and we start going up to her room. And when we did, you know, me and her, we got close and stuff. And one thing led to another. We ended up doing the Devil's Tango on a bunk bed on the top bunk, which is really weird. I'm not gonna lie. I hit my head a couple times on the roof and it sucked. But I remember the funny thing that I found hilarious was when that was happening, for some reason, she didn't have like a guardrail on the side of her bed like most bunk beds do. So it was so funny to know that out of nowhere, I kind of like ended up twisting and flipping her over and she ended up falling off the bed on the top bunk. And all I hear is, ah, boom. And from there, I'm like, oh my goodness. Cause I was still on the top bunk. And when I look down, I just see her holding her leg as she's not wearing anything. She's like, oh my goodness, it hurts so much. Oh my goodness. Oh. And like, she was like basically freaking out and moaning and crying. And like it hurt a lot. So I remember as I was panicking, I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is not good. And her parents weren't supposed to be home for like another 2 hours. But for some reason, every time she tried to get up, like I think like her leg was broken. I didn't know what to do and I was panicking. So I remember I didn't know what else to do other than call my older sister. I ended up calling my older sister saying, hey, like I really need your help. I really need you to come back here. And my sister's like, oh, like, do you want me to come pick you up? And I'm like, no, like I need you like drive me to the hospital. When she heard I wanted to go to the hospital, she drove there so quick. Like I swear she should have gotten a speeding ticket. And when she got there, I remember she literally comes into the house. She's like, what's going on? Like, where are you? I'm like, oh, I'm fine. And then I take her upstairs to the bunk bed and she sees that she's not wearing anything and she's landing on the ground. And my sister was pissed. Like she was so mad. But then she ended up helping her get ready and stuff. And we ended up carrying her into the car, driving her to the hospital. And when we got her to the hospital, I remember the doctor was like, so like, how did this end up happening? And I kind of looked at the doctor and I'm like, yeah. I didn't really say much. I couldn't say much. I didn't know what to say. So I just said, she fell off the bunk bed. And then he asked me, oh, like, so where were you when this occurred? On the bunk bed. He kind of like put 2 and 2 together. He wasn't a stupid doctor, I don't think. So he kind of just got it done. And then from there, I remember she ended up like having everything fixed up, but she didn't want to use crutches. So she ended up going on a wheelchair. And yeah, she ended up being on a wheelchair. Yeah, that's where the title comes from. Anyways, that is basically it for today's story. So make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Seriously means a lot when you guys do. And on top of that, just be careful what you do on a bunk bed, I guess, or just don't get a girl and go on a wheelchair. Actually, funny side note, I remember at the end like of everything, we ended up going to school the next day and all my friends were like freaking out saying, you put her on a wheelchair, you're crazy, you have a massive eggplant. Which I mean, I do, but you know, that's not the point. Anyways, like I always say, fall for more embarrassing stories. All right, peace out, guys. Okay, this is a quick warning before the video starts. I just want to say I do not want to get canceled for this, but this story maybe seem like something I could get canceled for. So this is straight up just gonna be me saying that this was totally out of nowhere and this was when I was not a smart kid whatsoever. Okay, that is all. It was a mistake. I'm sorry. And honestly, let's just get straight into this crazy story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another, well, pretty embarrassing, but I gotta say, pretty heartfelt story. So this story all takes place back in my grade 12 year. Now, my grade 12 year, it was a pretty well-known year that since you were graduating and things were moving on where you're going to become an adult, the school likes to host these events to make you feel excited and excited to graduate. And as for me, I wasn't excited because obviously I didn't know what the future held for me, but a lot of students in my school did, especially the grade 12s in my grad year. And I remember it got to the point where our school ended up hosting 3 separate dances that were a really big deal. Like, no joke, to every girl in our school, going to these dances were like a key highlight to their high school careers, which, to be fair, I don't know what a high school career will do for you, but for some reason these girls thought it was a lot. But I remember there was this one time when I was walking down the school hallway and it was like 2 weeks before the winter formal, and me, I wasn't actually planning on going to the winter formal because there was a new COD update coming out and I thought it would be totally fine to just miss one singular dance. But obviously, since there was a lot of girls in our school, actually there was a higher ratio of girls than guys in our high school for my grad year, I remember there was a girl that ended up coming up to me. Now this girl I actually did know, and funny enough, she used to be my previous sneaky link back in like grade 10. But obviously at this time she had a boyfriend, so her coming up to me was really weird. But she looks at me and says, hey Bubba, I was just wondering, are you going to the winter formal? Yeah, why? Did you and your boyfriend break up or something? Oh no, I was just wondering. And then she walks away. I really had no idea what she had lined up, but honestly, if you keep listening, you'll see see why she asked. Because I remember afterwards, I ended up going to the school cafeteria and I started sitting down with all the guys and we started talking about the winter formal a little bit here and there. And a lot of my friends in my grade 12 year had girlfriends. As for me, well, I don't know. I was kind of all over the place when it came to relationships. So at this current moment in the story, I was totally single. And as me and all the guys were talking in the cafeteria, we ended up seeing a girl rolling into the cafeteria with her friends. Now, there was a girl in our school that got into a terrible accident in our high school, where apparently this girl was in a car accident and like she ended up like basically losing feeling in her leg. And apparently it was supposed to be permanent, but I'm gonna say this right now. Today, as we speak, she is walking, thank the Lord. But at this time, she was rolling into the cafeteria with her friends and she looks over at me, waves, and then keeps rolling around. I remember me and my friends all look at each other and we were confused on who she was waving at exactly. But then I remember we ended up talking about her and we started talking about her accident and how we felt bad because, well, there was definitely no chance any guy in the right mind would take a girl in a wheelchair to a school dance. So us all like talking about this girl in a wheelchair, one thing led to another. And then once again, the same girl that asked me earlier if I was going to the winter formal walked up to me. She walks up to me and says, "Hey, Bubba, can I talk to you for a second?" Yeah, sure. And at this moment, all my friends just look at me totally confused on why she was asking me because, well, everyone in the school knew she had a boyfriend already. But me and this girl, we ended up going into a classroom, which was our science class. And as we basically went in there when no one was around, she looks over at me and says, "Bubba, so I know you're going to like the winter formal, but like honestly, like I was thinking you should definitely take like one of my friends." "Oh, who do you have in mind?" "Oh, well, she's really sweet and like she's really well known and she's like super cool." "Okay, that's great, but what does she look like?" "Oh, like she's really hot. Like a lot of guys like think she's like, you know, attractive and she has like a lot of cool features about her." "Cool features? What are you trying to sell me? A blockbuster movie? What's wrong with this chick? Why doesn't she have a date yet?" And that's when the girl that was in a wheelchair rolls in. And at that moment, I knew what she meant by special features because she ends up rolling in as if she owns the place and says, "Oh, was I interrupting something?" "Oh, no, totally not, girl. Don't worry. I was just talking to Bubba about like, you know, stuff. And he told me that he was going to ask you to the winter formal." At this moment, I looked at her like in total shock of like, what in the world are you saying? But then I looked over at the girl in the wheelchair and she looked at me with her eyes wide open. And to be honest, I ended up asking her to the winter formal. I know it's kind of bad of me to do that. And honestly, I felt really bad because, well, I mean, it was true. No other guy was going to ask her anyway. So knowing this, I basically ended up asking her and she was, you know, said yes. She got super excited. And when I walked out of the science classroom, apparently a bunch of girls were waiting as if it was like a proposal. I don't know. It was like a really big deal for her. And honestly, I just said, you know what? Screw it. I'll take her to the winter formal. It is what it is. I wasn't planning on going anyway. And to be honest, like I had no sneaky links lined up for that night. So it's fine. It works out. At least so I thought so at the moment. Because I remember as time went on and the winter formal kept getting closer and closer, more people started to hear that I was taking the girl in the wheelchair to the winter formal. And a lot of girls thought I was noble for this. But as for the guys, well, as you guys may know, I got picked on a lot. Like no joke, one time me and all my guy friends went to the pool and one of them ended up getting like a pool noodle and pretended it was the girl's leg since it didn't work at the time. Wow. You know what? Maybe me and my friends made really bad jokes back in high school. We gotta understand it was high school, okay? We didn't know any better. But I'm not gonna lie, after that whole entire week, knowing that the winter formal was only a couple days away, I was actually debating on canceling on this girl. No joke, the amount of times I just wanted to pick up my phone and just cancel on her were so many times, but I couldn't do it. I honestly felt bad. I don't know what it was, but something was propelling me to stop. And then that's when things kind of got interesting. Because I remember on the day of the winter formal, I ended up getting dressed in my suit. I ended up driving to her place and I ended up meeting her family. Now, honestly, even though it maybe sounds super cringe that I ended up, you know, taking a girl that was in a wheelchair to winter formal, a lot of people in her family really appreciated that I was doing this. And honestly, a lot of them were, you know, shaking my hand, being super kind to me and actually being over the top nice to me just because I was doing this. If anything, they made it seem like I was doing charity work as if I was Mr. Beast, when in reality, it was all a mistake that was just handed to me. But I decided not to think it that way and decided to, you know, be the best person I could. I ended up shaking all their hands and I ended up basically giving the rose to this girl that I was taking to the winter formal and she got excited. Afterwards, I ended up basically rolling her to my car. I ended up sitting her on my chair and I ended up packing her wheelchair in the trunk. And that's when we started heading to the formal. Now, when we got to the winter formal, I remember it was really fun, actually. Not gonna lie, me and her, we ended up rolling in there, which is funny because we actually did roll in there together. And basically, we ended up having a good time. We ended up hanging out with friends and a lot of people at first looked at me pretty weird, but then over time, they ended up just minding their own business because they knew that it didn't really bother me. But this is now where things get really juicy. because I remember when the girl ended up showing up and we rolled in there, no joke, we were all hanging out with our friends, but for some reason she ended up having this moment in the night where she just disappeared. I didn't see her for like a good like almost half an hour to an hour, and I was actually kind of worrying because, like, you know, it's not easy to lose a disabled person. Well, I mean, it's not something you should be doing in general, which sounds really mean to say, but you know what I mean. But I was panicking, and then I ended up finding her by the punch bowl with her friends, and when I walked up to her, she was acting totally different, like so different to the point where like she started being really flirtatious with me. She started being way more outgoing, and don't get me wrong, even though she was in a wheelchair, she was super hot still, but something was off about her for sure, and I didn't know what it was because, like, well, to be honest, I wasn't smart enough. But when I saw that they were hanging out by the punch bowl, I ended up basically testing the punch to see if, you know, it was intoxicated in any way, if you know what I mean, but it wasn't. So I was totally confused, but I decided to ignore it, and basically I ended up looking at her saying, hey, you know what, it's getting late, let me just take you home. Oh, okay, if you want me to. Guys, he's gonna take me home. You already know what's gonna go on, girls, is what she ends up saying to all her friends, and I'm just looking at her like, okay, yeah, she's definitely on something, but I have no idea what. I remember I ended up basically rolling her into my car, and I started driving her home, and when I was driving her home, she started busting in tears. I had no idea why, so I looked over at her and said, hey, is everything all right? Yeah, no, everything's fine. It's just like, you're so nice to me, and like, honestly, you doing this means a lot. Like, you know, I know you can pull any girl in the school, but like, you chose me, and like, seriously, like, I actually like think I'm falling in love with you. Wait, what is what I said to her? And then that's when she said, honestly, Bubba, to make this night perfect, can you just do one thing for me? Yeah, sure. What's up? Can we just do it? Like, please. I don't think that's possible because your parents are home. No, Bubba, like, can we just do it in your car, like in the back seat, please? I just want to do the Devil's Tango. Like, come on. No, I don't think that's a good idea, is what I told her. But then she wasn't saying no for an answer. But honestly, I had one rule back in high school, and that was never do a girl when she's intoxicated in any way, shape, or form, because you never know where it leads to. So I ended up driving her home, and I actually ended up leaving her back at her place. I told her parents that she ended up taking something. I wasn't sure what because I didn't see it, but they respected it and understood that she was just trying to have a good night. And when I finally got home, I laid in bed thinking, bro, does she really want to do the Devil's Tango with me? And how would that even work? I remember searching up on Google how it would work and stuff, and I know it sounds kind of insane to search up wheelchair Devil's Hub, but you gotta understand, it was purely for research purposes. And the next day when I went to school, I ended up seeing her, funny enough, rolling up to me right away when class just started. And she says to me, Bubba, listen, I'm sorry for like how weird I was being that night, but I was serious about doing it with you. Oh, okay, I wasn't sure. Yeah, so like, if you want, my parents aren't home today, and I kind of told them you were coming over, so I mean, they kind of got the picture. Do you want to like just come over and do it and like finalize the night? Sure. Yeah, you know what? Sure, why not? Is what I said. And I remember after school that day, I went back to her place, and we ended up doing the Devil's Tango. Yeah, it was kind of hard doing it with a girl in a wheelchair, but I gotta say, she probably didn't feel it more than me. Wow, I actually feel bad. Wait, did we even do it properly? I don't know, but if you think the story is fake, then follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.